In 2006, Dalip Singh Rana, or as he is better known as by his wrestling name, the Great Khali, became the first Indian professional wrestler to be signed with the World Wrestling Entertainment. From 2006 to 2014, the Great Khali became the face of WWE in India and a lot of events across the globe. His popularity soared WWE in India to new successes, but yet, in 2014, when his contract was expired, the Great Khali disappeared from WWE, and a lot of Indian fans of the World Wrestling Entertainment were left wondering what went wrong with the Great Khali and the World Wrestling Entertainment. So in this episode of What Went Wrong, we're going to take a look at history of the Great Khali as a wrestler, his career rise and fall in the World Wrestling Entertainment, and his eventual future and what he is doing now to promote wrestling in India. Welcome to a new episode of What Went Wrong. Make sure you check out the other episodes in the series from the playlist in the description and the cards as well. And let's talk about the rise, fall, failure, successes of the Great Khali. This video will be divided into three very distinct parts. Part 1 will focus on the Great Khali's WWE career, his rise and fall. Part 2 will analyze very intensely the reasons why he left WWE and the way he made his comeback and all of the reasons that influenced his departure from World Wrestling Entertainment. And Part 3 will focus on the future and what he is doing in his life right now and promoting wrestling in India. I would want you to watch this video entirely through the end, but if you want to skip to a certain part in the video, to a certain segment, there are timestamps on your screen right now so you can move ahead. As always, a sincere request to anyone watching this video that please leave a like and a comment on this video because the YouTube algorithm likes it and it will help get me more views and attention to the small channel. So let's begin with the part 1 and talk about the WWE career rise and fall of the Great Khali. A lot of people already know that wrestling in India is a very popular sport, and especially professional wrestling has been popular all through the times of WWE. It has been heavily telecasted in India throughout its history, and a lot of young people and a lot of elder people are fans of the World Wrestling Entertainment industry. So when in 2006, the Great Khali became the first Indian professional wrestler to be signed with WWE, it became a big news event for the entire country. At this point, if you don't know who the Great Khali is, the Great Khali is an Indian professional wrestler hailing from Punjab. He stands at 7 feet and 1 inches and weighs over 150 kgs. Before joining the professional wrestling industry, he worked as a policeman in the Punjab Police Force. He was noticed for his astounding stature and became a very popular pro wrestler in the year 2000. The story of the Great Khali making his entry into WWE has a great history. It is filled with a lot of twists and turns. He worked as an ordinary stone cutter. He was noticed on the road and joined the Punjab police industry, earning enough money to buy a television, which opened him up to the world of wrestling. He then worked really hard to build his body, build on the professional bodybuilding side to become a wrestler, moved to San Francisco saving up all his money to finally with the hope to join WWE, and eventually in 2006 when he signed a contract with the World Wrestling Entertainment, it was nothing less than a dream come true. In an interview to the Daily Pioneer, Dalip Singh Rana himself says that he signed the contract with WWE in 2005. McMahon, who is the president of the World Wrestling Entertainment, sent a limousine to get me from the premiere of The Longest Yard, the Hollywood movie in which Dalip Singh Rana starred, which eventually got him the attention of the agents for the WWE, and he was sent a limousine by the president of WWE, Vince McMahon, because he wanted to see him in person. Normally he doesn't do that, but in my case he made an exception. He asked if I wanted to work with WWE and I gladly said yes. Dalip Singh Rana debuted in SmackDown, one of WWE's weekly and most popular shows, as the Great Khali on 7th April 2006, and he defeated The Undertaker in his first game. However, his individual first game would happen only after 2 weeks later, and he would continue on an undefeated run for around 6 months, where he was eventually beaten by The Undertaker in a last man standing game. That was the beginning point for the relationship between Indian wrestler the Great Khali and WWE, and over the course of the next 8 years there would be a lot of storylines written around the Great Khali. His inclusion in the WWE world soared the popularity of World Wrestling Entertainment in India because the Indians, who were already a fan of the wrestling entertainment world, had a face that they could root for and look forward to. Over the course of the next 8 years, the Great Khali would go on to win the World Heavyweight Championship He would go on and host ostentatious Khali kiss scams. He became the Punjabi playboy, and over the course of the next 8 years, the Great Khali had a great career in the realm of WWE. And while this was only a very brief explanation on the transition of Dalip Singh Rana to the Great Khali, there is a lot more to the story, but the crux of the argument is this, that over the course of the next 8 years, the Great Khali would go on to do some important things in the world wrestling entertainment. However, in 2014, October 31st, the Great Khali would fight his final match as a contracted wrestler for WWE, and his contract expired in November, which meant that the Great Khali was no longer under contract to appear in WWE, and that was the end of his wrestling association with the World Wrestling Entertainment. He did, however, go on to make a comeback in 2017 and 18, something that we will touch upon later. But now let's take a look into the reasons why the Great Khali left WWE, which were ranging from the performance to business and a lot of other factors. So let's do that. This might come as a shock if you did not know this already, but the world of WWE is quite fake. Fake as in the performance are real, the wrestling is real, but overall it is governed by the fact it is a business and it needs to make money. Which brings us to the fact that there are primarily 5 reasons why the Great Khali had to leave the world of WWE. The first reason is that the Great Khali was not a great performer. He might be extremely tall and he might have a great stature, but he wasn't a really talented professional wrestler. The reason why he was popular in the world of WWE was because of his size and not because of his athletic performance. While he was good at landing a few slaps, once he got off his feet, he was done, and it was evident in the fact that in the later years of his career, he could not do some athletic moves. There were younger and better wrestlers that were able to get better of him, and ultimately his fighting style was not something that people could enjoy only because he was looking intimidating, and it led to a fact that his performances were not up to the mark and up to the standard that the WWE entertainment industry would expect. Which brings us to the second reason, which is that his popularity throughout the 8 years was waning. Don't get me wrong, when the Great Khali entered WWE, he became the face of wrestling in India. His popularity in India soared because he was the first wrestler from India to go to WWE. While he gained a huge popularity in a short span of time, his popularity started declining because of his bad performances in other countries like the US. Because of his limited skill set and underperformance, his popularity was facing a big backlash. Now it has to be understood that in India, while the Great Khali was popular and he was helping push WWE, it has to be understood that the World Wrestling Entertainment makes most of its money in the United States. And if that wrestler's popularity in that region is not as much as getting the return on investment for the company, they are bound to drop him because ultimately it is a business. Which brings us to the third reason, which is the actual return on investment that the World Wrestling Entertainment was putting in on the Great Khali. For starters, the Great Khali was making approximately $900,000 a year. That is a huge investment that the WWE had paid for years because the Great Khali is a huge marketing asset. Towards the end of his career, the WWE might have felt that the Great Khali was not worth the investment that he was being put in. He had already drawn a ton of fans from India, but on the flip side, his popularity in the regions that actually made money for the World Wrestling Entertainment industry were not as prospectful as they were in the initial years of his career. Adding to this is the reason that the Great Khali spoke a lot about the politics prevailing in the industry. The McMahons, or the presidents of the WWE, might not have liked the attitude and the out-of-the-world outrageous interviews that the Great Khali was giving because it might have a negative impact on the popularity of the WWE back in India and across all the regions that the Great Khali was popular in. There was also the fact that the Great Khali was not an English speaker, and his popularity and quite poor performances, unathletic gimmicks were leading to a fact that WWE would not make a lot of money out on the Great Khali, and had he continued for longer than what he initially did, he might have turned from an asset to a liability for WWE. And the final reason why the Great Khali left WWE was the Great Khali himself. The Great Khali, or Dalip Singh Rana, has other business aspirations, and as we will see in the next segment, the Great Khali did want to do a lot of other things than just be a wrestler in the WWE. There's also the fact that the Great Khali's persona in the WWE world was left tainted towards the end of his career. He must have been able to sign contracts from other popular wrestling industries like the NJPW, ROH, Impact, and wrestling federations across the world. But the creative team of WWE decided to sabotage his career by giving him the Punjabi Playboy gimmick in 2012 before releasing him in 2014. Because towards the end of his career, he was playing a cartoonish character, no other wrestling company would have been successfully able to launch him as a serious heel contender in the wrestling world. And even though Great Khali decided to play whatever character he was being asked to portray towards the end of his contract with WWE, he might have been better off if he would have taken a different stand and left the company in order to save his professional wrestling career. While the initial push that he had as an intimidating, daunting, staunchy character was waning off and has entirely faded by the time he left WWE. And while these were the 5 reasons that the Great Khali had to leave WWE, this was not the end of the story. He came back to India and opened his businesses, participated in movies, TV shows, and he also happened to make a one-time part-time comeback to WWE in 2017 and 2018, but it was very clear that that was not a permanent stint but only a temporary comeback. This brings us to the third part of the video as to what the Great Khali is doing ever since he has left WWE, his tryst with the wrestling entertainment industry in India, his business plans, his involvement with the entertainment industry. So let's just analyze that. Ever since the Great Khali left the World Wrestling Entertainment, he has showcased excitingly his potential as a business runner. In February of 2015, Dalip Rana opened India's first pro wrestling facility, the Continental Wrestling Entertainment. He has appeared in 6 movies, was the runner-up of the 2010 season of Bigg Boss, and for the past 5 years, he has been building the Continental Wrestling Entertainment as the premier pro wrestling federation in India. The most important thing that the Great Khali has been doing ever since he left the WWE is running the Continental Wrestling Entertainment, which has become the premier wrestling institute in India. Under the Continental Wrestling Entertainment, the Great Khali has popularized wrestling in most parts of India. And even though the wrestling federation's events are not televised, he has amassed a huge following in tier 2 cities. He has been training potential and budding wrestlers. He has been giving advice on bodybuilding, on fitness, athletics, and ultimately the Great Khali plans to open even more schools across India to promote budding wrestlers into the world of entertainment wrestling. The professional wrestling world in India owes a great ton to the Great Khali for the efforts that he has brought out in promoting the sport throughout the country. And while for the near future the Great Khali is being told to focus on his schools and the Continental Wrestling Entertainment world, he has not said no to appearing back in the world of WWE. He did make a brief comeback in 2017 and 18 as a part-time appearance, but in the future the Great Khali should be working very hard to promote pro wrestling in India. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this episode of What Went Wrong till the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I would love for you to subscribe so that you do not miss out a new episode of What Went Wrong, which comes out every Tuesday. Make sure you check out the other episodes from the link in the description for the playlist if you've not seen them already. And again, thank you so much for watching it till the end. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.